Hello there, welcome to People, Politics and Power. I am Imoni Amarere. Does Nigeria need another national dialogue, constitutional conference, or an ethnic nationalities confab on finding pathways to national cohesion, constitution amendment, true federalism, and progress? This is the question that is on the lips of many Nigerians. In the last few years, several calls of different colorations have dominated discourse. But the recent call by governors of the southern states of Nigeria for a national dialogue to address the many challenges confronting the country, including insecurity, seem to be ruffling some feathers.
The forum observed that the incursion of armed herders, criminals and bandits in the southern part of the country has presented a severe security challenge such that citizens are not able to live their normal lives, including pursuing various productive activities, leading to a threat to food supply and general security. Consequently, the meeting resolved that open grazing of cattle be banned across southern Nigeria. The meeting recommended that in view of the widespread agitation among our various peoples for greater inclusiveness in existing governance arrangement, the federal government should convoke a national dialogue as a matter of urgency.
Call by the governors is not a new one. Some say it is simply an amplification of the demands that have been made by several other groups. Some groups have called for something a bit different. That is, an ethnic nationalities conference. They say that the unity of Nigeria, its structure, the ways the peoples relate with themselves and with one another, and the most viable way it should be governed is something that must be put on the table and objectively discussed and agreed on. They argue that the 1999 Constitution leaves so much to be desired. At the heart of these are serious issues of restructuring, devolution of powers, and resource management, amongst others. However, these calls do not enjoy a broad reception across the country. In fact, the latest request from the southern governors has been met with a strong pushback from some quarters. Some interpret the call as a move towards the breakup of the country, or they suspect that those behind the calls have sinister motives.
I believe that Nigeria is going to come out of these challenges stronger. The calls for cessation, the calls for restructuring, many are genuine calls, even though I never believe that someone who is calling for cessation means well or is a misguided person. But I believe that when somebody calls for improving the structure that we have, it's a genuine call. But I want to advise here, I believe that as leaders, those of us who are elected must not be at the forefront of calling for this kind of thing. Because even if you are a governor, you are supposed to be working hard in your state to ensure that this restructuring you are calling at the federal level, you have done it in your state as well. Because what you may accuse the federal government of whatever it is, you may also be accused of the same thing in your state. So we are supposed to ensure that we have a complete and total way of ensuring that our systems at the federal, at the states, and even local governments work for the people, that we allow people to participate in governance, that whoever feels that he has something to offer to make Nigeria better does so freely without any let or hinder.
Yet some others say a national dialogue would not do any good. Besides the many others that have been held since independence, including those of 2005 and the 2014 National Confab convoked by former President Goodluck Jonathan at the twilight of his tenure. That conference lasted for 150 days and had 500 delegates, and of course it produced 10,335 page reports. Of the nature of the 2014 one have been part of Nigeria's national life since after the Civil War. It would seem that part of our social fabric is conflict and compromise. The national conferences are therefore put together for the purpose of planning and strategizing on how to coexist. It is seen as a tool to bringing the nation together to talk about its many challenges, recommend working solutions, and living in harmony. Dialogue, for some people, is born out of the belief that Nigeria, being a construct of colonialism and with several military incursions after that, is important for its over 400 ethnic nationalities to do a thorough reappraisal of their affairs and adjust the balance of power between the center and the constituent units. But the big question is, at what cost? And who represents who and what at such a dialogue session, if it does hold? Well, I'm going to be joined by 4 eminent Nigerians. 2 of them are here, right here with me in the studio, and the other 2 will be joining us virtually via Zoom, and we'll be looking at whether or not Nigeria needs another talk shop, another national confab, another national dialogue to get it right. Stay with us. We'll meet our guests after now. Thank you so much for staying with us. Let's get to meet our guest analysts. 2 of them here in the studio. First is Mr. Olusegun Amadu. He's the president, Yoruba Leadership and Peace Initiative. Thank you so much, Mr. Amadu, for joining us.
Good afternoon, and thanks for the invitation.
All right, also here with us is Honorable Kennedy Musa Tifato. He is a former member of Nigeria's House of Representatives. Thank you so much, Mr. Tifato.
Thank you.
Okay, and we will be joined by 2 other guests virtually via Zoom. First, we're joined from the southeastern part of Nigeria, about to be precise, in Abia State, by Barrister Emperor Gabriel Ogbonna. Barrister Ogbonna, of course, a legal practitioner and a human rights activist. Mr. Ogbonna, thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Ogbonna, you have to unmute so that we can hear you. All right. Well, Mr. Ogbonna is doing that. Let's get to meet our 4th guest, Dr. Tanko Yunusa. Dr. Yunusa is the national chairman of the National Conscience Party. Thank you so much for joining us at such a short notice, Dr. Yunusa.
Thank you very much for having me, Moni. And good afternoon, Nigerians.
Welcome. All right, Mr. Amadu, I'm sure the events of the last couple of days are not new to you. There are issues that have been on the table. Many say for as long as Nigeria has existed and for as long as politics has been played. Right, so the 17 Southern governors say it is time. This is coming out from what many will consider to be government quarters. This is not now coming from civil society or coming from other people who may feel disgruntled or who they perceive as disgruntled elements. These are governors of their various states and saying, look, we need a national dialogue. Do we need one at this point in time? If so, why?
Thank you very much. We have to give clear definition to national dialogue. If the national dialogue we're talking about is like the Confab of 2005, and 2014, then I personally will say, no, we don't. If the national dialogue is to compare notes, to sit down with other ethnic nationalities, to sit down with other Nigerians and agree on the way forward, but that will not be like the Confab of 2005 and 2014. One could look at it. And what are my reasons? A Confab of the sort that we had in 2014 and 2005, we don't have any incentive at all to go that route. The first is that where are the reports of 2005 and 2014? What have we made of these reports? If we be honest to ourselves, what are the new things that we're going to talk about now? There are not many. The only new thing we'll be talking about is the level of insecurity in the land now. Otherwise, practically every other item had been discussed in the past. What are the disincentives? That was number one. We have not done anything to what we did in the past and want to go ahead and do another one. Number two is the fact that we cannot afford it now. In those periods, perhaps we had enough resources to do what we did. Look at the sheer number, 500 Nigerians sat for so many days. And
150 days, and we sunk billions of naira.
And we sunk a lot of money in there. Today we know we are borrowing money to do practically everything. Are we going ahead to borrow money to do that again? We cannot afford it. Number three, all of us are convinced, unless we want to do otherwise, that the constitution we are talking about is faulty, it is flawed. When you submit your report, who do you submit it to? To the National Assembly, who sits in judgment because they have the constitution in their hands. So we're going to use a flawed document to prepare a new document for the future. A question mark. Number four, sir, the man at the helm of affairs at the National Assembly, that's the President of the Senate, he has come out openly to let the nation know that he is not interested. His reaction to the Southern Governors' declaration indicated clearly that bring whatever you will bring, we're not going to look at it in the way you want us to look at it. What way do you want them to look at it? Place it down and look at Nigeria. Don't look at Southern Nigeria. Don't look at Northern Nigeria. Look at Nigeria as a whole and do something for Nigeria. That's what we are asking for. But he has come along to say, why should you talk about ranching and grazing? Why should you talk about insecurity in the land? Why should you talk about devolution of powers? Pray, what should we be talking about? That we are happy with grazing, where people cannot go to their farms, where people are being maimed, raped, and killed, where ancestral lands are being taken over with impunity. Is that what we want to wait for? Number two, we want to look at power devolution. The system we are running has not worked. You don't need a soothsayer, you don't need an expert in anything to tell us. It is not working for anybody. Whether the man is in Manguno, in Borno State, or in Badagry in Lagos State, it is not working for either of them. So why shouldn't we look at it and say, bring more power down and let people that are closest to the voters, to the masses, take decisions that they can see. When you are there in Abuja, you are sitting at top of a crest. You look at all Nigeria. But those that are close to the ground, to the people there, they have the resources to deal with them. They know what they want. The man in Sokoto may want us to do whatever. We want education. Whereas the man in Ikotabasi may say to you, sorry, I want to do fishing. That is his priority. He should be able to express it.
So in doing all of this, Honorable Tifatu, in trying to achieve all of what Mr. Amadu has outlined here, do we not need one form of national dialogue or the other? Whether it is the sort that we had in 2005 or 2014 or something completely different. Do we need anything like that?
Thank you. I'm a former contestant, not member of the House of Representatives.
Okay, okay.
I needed to make that correction.
Yes,
thank you
we are
for
sorry
having
about
me.
that.
Dialogue in the family, in a household, in within an ethnic group, within a state, a local government, is an ongoing process. But I know that once the mention of national dialogue is made, it refers to, like the governors suggested, the convocation of an assembly of people, maybe over a period of time. We do need dialogue because dialogue, ongoing dialogue, is the hallmark of any democracy. But the problem with ours is that we prefer the forms rather than the substance. We do not need to convoke a formal dialogue. Right now, as we speak, dialogue of different sorts are ongoing. But the thing is, Nigerians inadvertently had surrendered their sovereignty to government. It started pre-independence. Only the dialogues that were recognized by the British were given vent. And those that were organized both locally and those that were taken to Lancaster House between 57 and 58, pre-independence, those were the conferences that were recognized. Other conferences at various levels have always been ignored. Now, it became worse if after independence, Nigeria or Nigerians have been brought together under various names and at different periods. Some have ended up with constitutions. The Political Bureau report of 1986, Justice Cookie Commission, the military president Babangida's Constitution of 1989, the 1995 Constitutional Conference, the 2005, the 2014, all these reports are there. And even this administration, I understand there's a committee headed by former Senate President Ken Namani on electoral matters. Previously, there was Justice Uwais. You know, this is Nigeria in search of national consensus on various aspects of our national life. Dialogue is an ongoing process. Therefore, what we need more than convoking a national dialogue or a formal conference is leadership. Leadership is at the center, at the heart of everything. It was easy, for instance, for military president Babangida to convoke that political bureau. They did an extensive work. I have read the report. It was easy, for instance, for President Goodluck Jonathan to also convoke that national conference in 2014 because it is government. It is what is acceptable. But you remember there was a PANDEF or PANADEF that drew up a constitution. The late Alao Bashoru, who was NBA president, also put together another conference in 1989. Many other conferences. The difference is
many of which did not have, or some of which did not have government.
In fact, including those ones that were convoked by government, have not seen the light of day.
Yeah, so when we'll come back to why they have not seen the light of
Precisely.
day. Yeah. So, but let's cross over to Kaduna and talk to Dr. Tanko Yunusa. Dr. Yunusa, where you have been in the trenches for quite a while, as far as the Nigerian project is concerned, this new suggestion, this new campaign for a national dialogue, does it sit well with you? Or do you think that possibly what we require is a conference of nationalities?
No. First of all, let me stand in solidarity with the Nigerian Labour Congress, who are having its 5-day strike walk in Kaduna to kind of bring the government to order for the incessant sacking and no justification, and increase in salary, an increase in school fees with no correlation with the hardship that the Nigerian people are facing, especially those in Kaduna. I stand in solidarity with the Nigerian Labour Congress, and I hope that the government will see reason into regard to some of these particular hardship which have dovetailed into national security issue. Of course, by extension, the incessant call by so many different parts of this country for issue of restructuring or conferences or any other reason for us to discuss and judge with our lives as Nigerians. Now, the truth about it is that Nigerians for long have been held in total disdain. The total disdain is holding them in deception, deceit, and a lot of lies. And so, many other conferences that have, is it in 99, 2005, 2000, other decisions by different eminent Nigerians, even by our the Nigerian National Fund, at the same time, the call by the government is a result of some of this particular decay in the system. So, while we are calling for a restructuring, in any disguise that any other person must have seen it, is for us to respond to the yearning of called by each of the different zones of this country. Unfortunately, it's too late now for the governors to be calling for issue of conferences and all, when long before now, they ought to hold the bull by the horn and do justice to some of the issues that has bedeviled this country. You will agree with me. Most of the problems are not emanating from a national level. Most of the problems that are coming out of Nigeria comes from the ward to the local government, from the local government to the state level before it dovetails nationally. In agreement to looking at this political inclination of some of the things that these particular governors are calling for, you want to extray. Did they actually do what they ought to have done as governors? If they have, most of the agitation wouldn't have come up in the first place at all. I'll give you an example. Here we are in this country. The most closest form of governance to the people is the local government. As of today, the governors have held, irrespective of whether they come, where they come from, south, north, east, or west, they have not been able to implement or emancipate the local government level to perform the interests of the people. If that has for a long time, probably some of the agitation must have fizzled out. So we must hold them responsible for some of the challenges that we have. Two, the issue of this grazing that everybody is calling for, whether we are bounding it or no bounding it. Did we provide alternative? Even in the north where you are talking about, I don't want to be accused of probably not being interested in the national conference, maybe because of where I come from. But the truth about it is that, am I doing better? In the north, are we doing better? Come to the north and see what is happening. It's not about south or north, it's about the people. You go to Ilela, or you go to Safi, or you go to Maiduguri, or you go to Kano, and see the level of decay in the system. It is not better. So the truth is that, have we as a people done what is supposed to have been done to the people? Definitely no. And the agitation becomes fierce because of this particular lack of duty that most of the governors have shown. The truth is that most of the governors were people who even extend their arming individuals. They arm some of these militias in order to perpetuate themselves into power. So this issue of North and South, we in the South are calling, we in the North are calling, is fear deceit to people. Let's do what's supposed to be done for the people and see if we are going to be any kind of agitation. So therefore, what am I calling for? In other words, what we are saying is that all these documents that have been gathering dust under somebody's table should be collapsed together. We are saying that the people's right must be given to them. If they are agitating in the Southeast, that they want one more state, or in the South-South, where they are demanding that they want resource control, or is it the Southwest, where they are saying that they want true federalism, where police and everything will work? Is it in the Northwest or in the Northeast, where every kind of agitation in the North Central are calling that we've been annihilated, we've not been carried along in governance of inclusiveness? All of these agitations are germane. What we need is the National Assembly to be strong enough to collapse all of this document together and work on it. And let me assuage this particular idea of whether we have spent so much money on conferences. Look, if the country is not together, you have nothing to spend for. So it is not out of place if we put our resources together to first of all solidize the pillar that hold us together, so that every agitation will be assuaged, so that every Nigerian will work together. If that is not done, then I'm afraid of some of the challenges that we may face, that we may overwhelm of. So for me,
yes,
not too much in place for us to put the country.
All right, so thank you so much, Dr. Yunusa. Stay with us. Let's cross over to the southeast, where we are joined by Emperor Gabriel Ogbonna, a rights activist and a lawyer. Mr. Ogbonna, I'm sure you have heard everything that's been said from the studio and from our guest in Kaduna, Dr. Yunusa. What's your take on this issue? Do we need another national confab? Another national conference? Do we even need another constitution? Have we been able to implement the constitutions that were made for us in Nigeria in the past? Because that's what the 1999 constitution represents. They say it was imposed on us by the military.
Okay, well, the truth is that I agree with the governors of the southern Nigeria that we need a national dialogue. If you consider what have been happening in Nigeria all these years, Nigeria, apart from the period of the Civil War, Nigeria had never been on a crucible as it is right now. The situation we find ourselves in the country right now is very pathetic. And right now, during the time of the Civil War, it was only the Igbos, the Southeast, they were actually, and part of the South, a part of them that were actually want to break away from Nigeria. But right now we have a situation whereby the Southeast, they're having their own problem. They want to pack out. The Southwest, you have saw them over the weekend have a problem. The Middle Belt, they also have a problem. They are all talking about how to go out from the country. Now, we don't, ordinarily, people will not, we want to be together. But the question is, how do we be together? That's the question everybody is asking. Because we know that somehow, Nigerians need each other. Most of the things some of the things we eat in the Southeast, they come from the North. The people that come here to buy things from us in the Southeast, in Aba here where I stay, they come from the West. So you see that somehow there's a symbiotic relationship between one side of Nigeria and the other side. Now, these ethnic nationalities are all asking, most of them, the entire South, even the South, you see some splinter groups in the South are also asking for the same thing. So you see that right now, what we actually need is restructuring. We need to sit down and talk. Now, the truth about it is that we have elected House of Assembly, House of Rep members and senators. But the truth is that it appears that Nigerians, with all due respect, do not actually have confidence in these people. Nigerians don't trust them, because we see a situation whereby we see it not being amended, and we are entering into an election. Very soon we shall be having an election that is flawed because of the Electoral Act that is not proper. So we also see something like the Cyber Act, which the Cybercrime Act, which is anti-people. So you see that the people somehow they don't have the confidence fully in the National Assembly. So right now we need a national dialogue. We need ordinary people elected to come and discuss the future of Nigeria. Although I believe that one thing is that we should not discuss as by the issue of breaking away. That one should not be a part of the discussion. But rather, we should ask ourselves, how do we sit down and have a country where everybody can be proud to say, I'm a Nigerian? How do we sit down and have a country where we have laws that are regulating so many things? We have the police that are responsible. We have the army that is responsible. We have the way of sharing the money of the country, that everybody, every part of the country will have something. We have a judicial system that's independent. We have a local government system that's actually, look at Section 7. Section 7, the governors have argued that Section 7 of the Constitution does not give an absolute right to local government to be independent. Now that Section 7 needs to be amended. We have so many other areas that ought to be amended in the Constitution. And the National Assembly has been there all these years. They have not been amending these things. And we see the country falling into a problem. Every day we keep seeing problem for Nigeria. You open the news, the only thing you see, bad news. This man killed, police station burnt, this one killed. We need to sit down and start talking about Nigeria.
Mr. Ogbonna, the main question right now is what nature of national dialogue do we need? Mr. Amadu said earlier on that we do not need the type of national confab we had in 2005 and 2014. And he gave reasons why he thinks that is not necessary at this point in time. So for you, what is the nature of the kind of dialogue which you have? Given that we have so many other documents that are already on ground that can be relied on for some of these issues.
Yes. The truth is that, as I said earlier, the situation of the country in Nigeria today is one that is very pathetic. Right now, anybody who is organizing a national dialogue should know that he must have the willpower to implement it. So what I am asking for is this. Let there be a law to allow this national dialogue. The people elect people who will speak for them. So the National Assembly will be represented, the Senate will be represented, the House of Reps will be represented, governors will be represented, other people will be represented. Let us talk about Nigeria. And then people bring out ideas. Now, somebody has said that these things were not implemented in the past. Now, who do you blame? It is, I blame the people in power who refuse to implement it. But right now, we can all see that the reason why we're having a problem in Nigeria today is simply because we have failed to implement all those things that were agreed in the past national dialogue. So right now, let there be a new dialogue whereby ordinary people are being brought in, every interest is being represented. The political class is represented, doctors, lawyers, every group is represented. We have a national dialogue, we start talking. Then there will be a willpower to implement it. If they don't implement it, then it doesn't make any sense. There must be a willpower to implement this national dialogue.
All right, stay with us.
So what I'm saying is that we need...
Mr. Tifato, right, so what do you think is responsible for the non-implementation of all previous reports of such national dialogue?
The lack of leadership on the part of those who have occupied the highest offices in the land. They have been, unfortunately, it's not a very comfortable position to be put in, but they have, with the benefit of hindsight, been people who have been self-centered, people who have looked out for their own interests, most of it personal. In fact, I'm one of those who believes that the use of tribal or ethnic interests or religious interests are for selfish interest itself. Most people only apply those things because they really have nothing to offer to make Nigeria develop. It's the lack of leadership. Why would you, as a leader, as a sitting leader, convoke some form of a national conference? You would receive the report, and it's you who will not implement it. The previous administration of President Goodluck Jonathan convoked one in 2014, but the party of the current president refused to attend. Now, on coming to power, the party has refused to take a look at that document. It is not about political parties. We should go back all the way to the pre-independence conference reports. Go back to the Political Bureau report. Analyze Nigeria's problems. What I'm saying is we do not need a fresh nomination of people from the various, howsoever you want to put it, ethnic nationalities or their geographical expressions or whatever they are. We already have reports. Do a synthesis of these reports. Let's have, even if you want them listed, the different issues listed all, and then we can classify them. And see, I believe that the reports we have in Nigeria can give us a brand new constitution that Nigerians will be happy with. There's no document that's perfect. We are not perfect. How can we be expected to produce perfect documents at one go? But why is there no willingness on the part of leadership? Like I said earlier, unless the sitting government of a day initiates a process or supports a process, it doesn't see the light of day. But even when it does, the lack of leadership prohibits them from implementing. They become selfish. They become self-serving.
Mr. Amadu, there are suggestions that have been put on the table, one or some of which are that, first, we might need a national dialogue, but who represents who at that national dialogue? What is the basis of representation? Some people have suggested that, look, nobody who has held political office in Nigeria should be part of that national dialogue. In fact, those who should go for that national dialogue should be elected and not selected as we had in the past, where the government in power practically selected almost every person that attended that dialogue. Second is the proposition that perhaps this dialogue should start at the state level. The governors should, at their level, convoke their own state dialogues and then bring all of that up to the national level.
Thank you so much. The questions have been answered straight away. First and foremost, do we need to talk to one another? A capital yes. And the way to go is to look at the ethnic nationalities, look at the constituent parts of Nigeria, look at the geopolitical zones. I am not for a jamboree again. It's wasteful. It won't get us to where we're going. If we take the states as a basic unit and ask, like you just said, ask the governors in the state to organize themselves and come up with a position of that state, the geopolitical zones with their position, then we can now invite all the governors. There are 36 of them. All the governors, they come to sit. The former Vice President, Atiku Abubakar, mentioned something on his media links. Now bring all the 36 governors together, let them talk about it. That will be cost effective. These are people that know what their people want. They represent their people, and we must say it clearly. Sorry, the best group of people that represent the interests of their people are the governors. They were elected by their people to govern a whole state. So when they come together, and all of them, from Kano to Edo, let all of them come together in Abuja and sit through it. The southern governors have come up with a position. Let the northern governors come up with a position. And they will continue. Like my colleague here said, we will never get a perfect report. Never. We won't get that. But let us be careful. We cannot go the route of saying, start with the local government. Let us focus on the local government. That's a faulty way to start. That's a distraction. That's a deflection. We will be on that local government issue and then come elections and we forget about it. No. This time we want a full-scale review, not even a review, new constitution. We want devolution of power. We want Nigeria to move forward. I'm not saying that we want the southern part of Nigeria. No, it is Nigeria to move forward. For us to move forward, we need to look at all of these issues, which the southern governors have mentioned. My colleague on the Zoom was mentioning the fact that ranching or grazing was the alternative to grazing. I'm sorry. What's the alternative to cocoa farming in Ondo? What's the alternative? This is a business. And meanwhile, the governors of Kano and Kaduna, at least those two have said, let all the people, herders, let them come to Kano and Kaduna. They have enough land for them. Nobody is saying they shouldn't come to the south. But when they come, it is business. They should
the alternative actually is ranching.
It is ranching.
The alternative to open grazing is ranching.
Ranching.
Which is
it
what
is
has been put
all
on
over
the
the world.
table.
Sir,
Yes.
before you go, do you know that on livestock alone, New Zealand, Australia, they make so much money. You cannot imagine it. Bauchi will be making so much money if only they will look to what they have.
In Africa, Botswana,
They are there. So we have what it takes to move forward.
Kenya,
but for
South
some
Africa.
considerations which are self-centered, because we must say it the way it is. It is not about talking together alone. We must go with the mindset that we want Nigeria to move forward. People are aching everywhere. They are aching. Let's come together, sit down, and talk Nigeria. That is all the southern governors are saying.
The challenges are not limited to one section of the country.
No, they are not.
No.
They are everywhere. Dr. Tanko, I'm sure you're still very much with us. Now, so if we were to have a national dialogue at this point in time, knowing that 2023 is just around the corner, will it be a viable project? And what would be the modus operandi, the representation process?
Well, there are so many, what would I call it, a bottleneck in the system that is making it difficult. Like when we convoke our national conference or the People's Constitution, as we call it at the National Consultative Front, the question that comes up with that, how do we implement it with the National Assembly in place? It becomes a difficult tool for us. Obviously, the National Assembly is not interested in working on a new document as postulated by a lot of people. So what we are offering is that, okay, let it be a citizen discussion that will use technology. If we as a conference worked on a document, we must be able to share it down to the smallest minute individual in the villages for them to make contributions. That way it will reduce costs, and then everybody that have these particular phones that we have on our hands can contribute one way or the other. We can collapse that document into one. Whether the National Assembly now agree to work on it or not, it has not become an implementable document for discussion and negotiation in the future. For some of us who are interested in taking over power in no distance time, that will be the first implementable document that we want to implement for the interest of the Nigerian people. Probably that may force this particular government to start looking at the ways of probably implementing the document that will be submitted to the National Assembly. We are not saying that we will not submit it to the National Assembly, but whether the National Assembly like it or not, they either use it or we will use it in the nearest future. That way, the Nigerian people know there's an implementable, possibly implementable document that will outweigh their own fear in the future. And when I said the issue of what are the alternatives for granting, for grazing and all, I'm talking about the national issue generally. There are so many issues that is bedeviling this country that we have not been able to provide alternative for. What we do is only sustain the people at a point in time and then leave them to their fates. So, but at the point in time now, the issue of grazing and open grazing and nothing become the burning issue. That's why I make reference to it.
Okay.
So when we are discussing, we should always be discussing about national issues that will put the people together and make them work as one entity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tanko. Emperor Ogbonna, let me come to you. You mentioned earlier, and that has been emphasized again by Dr. Tanko, that the National Assembly in Nigeria, at least going by the position of the Senate President, do not appear to be interested in this national dialogue. Otherwise, what would be required will probably be a law to empower this process. Now, if the National Assembly is not interested, and we go ahead and convoke a national dialogue, and hope to send the outcome of that national dialogue to the National Assembly that is ab initio not interested, well, where does that leave us?
Well, the truth about it is that ordinarily, there is no way you would expect the National Assembly to be interested in this national dialogue, because the National Assembly, the national dialogue will be an alternative, a sort of an alternative to the National Assembly, and they would want to protect their interest. The truth is that the National Assembly is there, and when they are there, the country is falling apart. Anybody who speaks the truth to himself will agree that the country is falling apart. We have violence in the south, in the north, in the west, everywhere. We have unknown gunmen, we have Boko Haram, we have bandits, we have kidnappers everywhere. Now, the situation is very, very bad. Now, the National Assembly, with all due respect to them, has not really stood up to the occasion in Nigeria. The other day, you saw Senator Smart Adeyemi crying in the National Assembly, and we also heard that some of the members of the Senate were against him, telling him, you are from the same party, you're not supposed to talk. It shows you that everything has become a party affair. We need a national dialogue. We need people that, how you can get them is clearly them. Let us use what you call option A4. Option A4 that was used that time, we can use it now. We bring up people bring up people who they think they can represent them. From the worst to the local government, from the local government to the state, from the state to the federal. You have an amalgam of people. They will come and start talking. Now, somebody said about Nigeria, about governors representing the people. It's not really so. We have, okay, if the governors are representing the people, why are they not allowing section 121, sub 2 of the constitution that provides that the judiciary should be autonomous? Why are the governors dilly-dally on it? Up to now, the whole courts in Nigeria are on lockdown, up to almost 2 months, because the governors have refused to comply with the constitutional provision. So when somebody says that the governors are there for the interest of the people, I laugh at them. I laugh at that person, because the person saying the truth without the The governors are not there for, some governors are there for the people, but not at every time are there for the people. So what I'm actually saying is that we need this national dialogue. Then the National Assembly, the people will impress on them the need to look at that law. I know quite well that after this national dialogue has been gotten, we have the document, we take them to the National Assembly. Yes, we know that. But if the people tell their reps, their senators, please, we need this thing. If you don't do it, we will recall you. The people will insist that they need this thing. The senators will know the area of interest of their people and will go to the House to speak for the people. I am of the opinion that the Senate president was speaking for himself when he had this view that national dialogue should not go on. He was speaking for himself. He is not speaking for all the senators, because the person that...
Well, sorry, we seem to have some communication challenges here. Mr. Tifato, let's begin to wind this down now. And do you think that the elite, the Nigerian political and business elite at every level, can actually subsume their interest for the national interest?
Going by what I see, my answer would be a no. Honestly, even the conferences we are referring to, they are elitist. It is the elite, the ruling elite, the political establishment. They have held the people ransom by these conferences. Each time there is a convocation of any form of conference, the ordinary Nigerian regenerates some hope in a process that will bring a new Nigeria, only for that hope to be dashed by self-serving, leading or political elite. Why? The best place to start these issues, as far as I'm concerned, is collapse all the reports into one document. If you want line by line issues, outline all of them and see where they fit in. Are they issues that could be handed over like President Jonathan attempted to do? He said some of them were administrative, some were
constitutional.
Others would be judicial and things like that. Are they things that can be segregated like that and applied? Come to think of it, we have in this country right now, with everything that is wrong with our constitution and other laws, we still have people who have some semblance of leadership within these limitations that are leading lives in their little corners. People who would sacrifice their personal interest for the public interest, for the general good. It's character, sir, that provides leadership. That's the problem with this country. So, it is not the document.
So it all boils down, Mr. Madu, to a whole issue of leadership. Do we have that kind of leadership at this point in time in our national life to do that which you consider to be in the national interest and national good?
Clearly, no.
So where do we go from there?
No. Where do we go from there? We, the masses, we the people, we the citizens, we have to raise our voice. The National Assembly is not going to do whatever we're looking forward to, not the federal government itself. So if we pin our hopes on them, we'll be wasting our time. But the people, and I can say without any fear of contradiction, go to the Northeast, you find Nigerians there that are willing to look to the future, that the future will be good. In the Northwest, in the North Central, all across the South, Professor Atahiru Jega is there, and many more like that. We've been talking about the fact that we need to change and move forward. We must identify those guys, in addition to bringing in the governors. Because if we don't, sir, what may happen is the fact that if we do not restructure now, we are so close to rupturing. I quote one of my colleagues, if we don't restructure, we may rupture. And we don't want to rupture. Nobody wants war. Let us do the needful and move the nation forward.
Thank you very much. Olusegun Amadu is the president of the Yoruba Leadership and Peace Initiative, joining us on People, Politics and Power today.
Thank you, sir.
We have also been joined by Honorable Kennedy Musa Tifato, former contestants for the House of Representatives from Kaduna State. Thank you so much for your time. And virtually, we were also joined by Emperor Gabriel Ogbonna, a legal practitioner and human rights activist who joined us from Aba in Abia State. Thank you so much. And Dr. Tanko Yunusa, chairman of the National Conscience Party. He joined us from Kaduna in Kaduna State. Of course, thank you so much, Dr. Yunusa. And we hope that you keep safe in Kaduna with all the turmoil that is ongoing there right now with the strike by labor. Right there, Kaduna is, as it were, in a lockdown. Thank you for investing your time with us. We'll see you again. We'll bring you a fresh edition of the program. Bye for now.